President-elect Donald Trump making history last night with a return trip to the White House.
Yeah, we've been tracking the numbers all night, all morning long, and once again joined by political analyst JC Polanco to help us understand where everything stands and where we go from here, right? So sticking with us, JC, let's talk about the president-elect right now. Not only broke that threshold of 270, what was the path to the White House, right, but also won the popular vote. Now, in past years, we've seen the Democrat win the popular, but former President Trump won the Electoral College, this time both in his favor. What does that signify?
It signifies that there's been a huge political shift across the country. Democrats have always been seen as the ones that were going to win the popular vote because there's just more votes in cities and more votes in populous states. So you could always think that the Republican had the advantage in the Electoral College, but the Democrat had the advantage with the popular vote, although we don't elect presidents based on the popular vote here, so it didn't really matter. But I know there are a lot of political analysts, a lot of pollsters that are completely shocked this morning to think that President Trump won both the popular vote and the Electoral College. That means that there were huge shifts in cities across the country. Cities that once voted reliably blue for Democrats were not as strong in favor of the Democrats this time around. We see it with black men. We see it with Latinos in a lot of these pockets. And I think that we're seeing a lot more with Asian voters voting strongly for Republicans in many parts across the country. So we didn't see those numbers in the cities that we thought we would see, like we saw in 16 and in 20.
But right now, this is a country that is so deeply divided. Now, last night we heard former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, talk about unifying this country. What do you think about that messaging? And do you think, for a lot of folks, they don't feel like that's even possible at this point?
Well, I hope it is. Many Democrats I talk to, when they hear that, they'll think, boy, that's like the arsonist trying to play firefighter, right? And I think that's a valid argument. But right now, he's in a position where he can unite the country. For all that it's worth, he has to unite the country. We have no other option. I mean, we've been divided for, I think the last 10 years is clear to say that we've never seen this kind of division. But what we saw in today's results is that we're more divided than we thought. I think that it's up to Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, to come in now and really reach out to those folks that didn't support him and bring them in, similar to what Vice President Harris says. Put them in your cabinet, put them at the table, bring the country together. And I think that's going to be very hard for someone like President-elect Trump, who's made his name as being that divisive character. He has been divisive. I know you're a viewer watching right now, and if you voted for Trump, you're very happy right now. But let's be honest, your candidate has been incredibly divisive. His rhetoric has been divisive. He's been a divisive character. For him to turn the page now and bring the country together is something that we really need him to do.
And that's one thing, right? But and often a president would love to have both chambers of Congress be in their party, right? So right now, when you look at the balance of power, it looks like the Senate's going to flip to being a Republican-led, right? And on the House, it's going to flip to potentially being Democratic, right? So when you look at the balance of power right now, again, we need 4 seats to flip the House. What does that signify in terms of the power and the mood of the country when you're seeing some changeover?
Look, I know that the House is too close to call right now, but it would mean that we have a speaker from Brooklyn, a speaker of the House of Representatives, and Hakeem Jeffries. That would be great for New York, regardless of your political persuasion. It would show that there would be at least one barrier to President-elect Trump running through and getting all of those policies that he wanted. There would be one barrier in place. If the House falls, this would be very interesting to see President-elect Trump have every single lever of power. Now, I got to tell you, when we looked at the Senate map, the Democrats were at a disadvantage from the very beginning. How do you win a seat in West Virginia? How do you win a seat in Montana? But there were some shockers. You look at Tammy Baldwin, too close to call in Wisconsin. You leave yourself in a little lurch, like you thought you had those seats on lock. And then there were some other...
Too close to call in Wisconsin for Tammy Baldwin on the Democratic side, but Trump won the state of Wisconsin.
Trump won the state of Wisconsin, so you had a lot of split ticket voting this election cycle. So to your question, there were a lot of voters that went in and voted Democrat in one end and Republican in the other. And you know what's so fascinating about these results as we look at how split we are, Hazel and Dan? When you look at Florida, Florida voted to legalize abortion. Simultaneously, they voted overwhelmingly for President Trump. I think, how does that happen? The guy who gave you the justices to overturn Roe versus Wade, you support him overwhelmingly while simultaneously supporting abortion rights on the ballot. That's very interesting.
Break that down, because Florida wasn't the only place that happened.
No, it happens in many places across the country where you saw that abortion was on the ballot. Still, Donald Trump wins overwhelmingly. He's a force of nature. This is someone who was selling his mugshots as a fundraising tactic. He was selling Bibles. I've never seen this before. People driving their pickup trucks through the Bronx with Donald Trump flags on. He is a cultural phenomenon like we've never seen before. I wonder what kind of Monday morning quarterback is happening among Democratic circles. Did it make sense to give him all that attention for a whole month during a trial in Manhattan? That wall-to-wall coverage on the hush money trial that went absolutely nowhere? And you think about the other indictments across the country. Was this a miscalculation? Did these indictments make him look like a victim, a martyr of sorts in many pockets across the country? What we're seeing today as Monday morning quarterbacks is that, in fact, it does. And a lot of the things that were being launched against Donald Trump ended up being in his favor. And I think that we're going to look back and think about those trials, the constant attacks on whether or not he was a fascist. Those things didn't resonate with voters. And Project 2025, my goodness, it wasn't even on the radar.
Do you think, I mean, a lot of folks are concerned about abortion rights. Like you mentioned, many of the states that had abortion on part of the ballot there did approve the changes. But do you feel like those folks should still be concerned? I mean, folks across the country, people here in New York that are concerned, that was a big issue.
That was a big issue, but I don't think it's, as far as being concerned about a national ban, you have Congress members across the country, Republicans like Mike Lawler, who won last night, who said he's not supporting a national ban. So I don't think you have to worry about a national ban happening. And in states that wanted to codify abortion, you got it done in New York vis-a-vis the Constitution. You got it done in Florida through a referendum. Even Kansas and Ohio, look at all of those red states that supported abortion. They still supported Donald Trump, as you were mentioning, Dan. So voters got both. Voters got their concern on abortion and protecting some pro-choice rights and protecting their election with Donald Trump.
You're talking about the Monday morning quarterback. At one point, are they going to look on the Democratic side of things and say, well, was it too late in the game for Joe Biden to say, I'm stepping aside? It didn't give Kamala Harris enough time. Or should there have been a primary along the way, right, to allow the process to play out without kind of just appointing Kamala Harris to be the chosen one? There's going to be so much of that coming in. But for the Democrats looking at it right now, they have to begin now.
Right.
Who they're going to be putting forward for the next race.
Right, and it's going to be difficult because what we see in the map is that the country is a purple country. It is a centrist country. So you're going to have to look at the Democratic bench, and you mentioned start looking now for 4 years. You're going to have to find which Democrat in that bench is able to bring in Republicans and independents, and where are they coming from? You can't go in there and say, I'm going to pick a popular Democrat who's very popular with the base. That means nothing in 4 years. Which candidate in that base? Is it Gavin Newsom and coming out of California? I don't know. And now that if you think about it, guys like Sherrod Brown, guys like Tim Ryan, those moderate Democrats, there are not too many of them out there anymore. They've been taken out in primaries. So this is a purple country, and you're going to need a centrist, moderate Democrat that's going to be able to bring in Republicans and Democrats along. And I got to tell you something else about Monday morning quarterback. Over 30,000 times, Donald Trump ran a commercial accusing Vice President Harris of supporting transgender surgeries for criminals in jails. And it was left unanswered by Democrats. That's going to be a major issue, and it was a wedge issue that brought a lot of black men and Latinos to vote on behalf of Donald Trump. I cannot believe the Democrats sat back and did not address that commercial head on as it being a Trump-era policy, not a Biden-Harris-era policy. We're going to look back, and it's those wedge issues that made a lot of the difference.
I mean, everybody talks about turning the page. We shall see what's on the other side of that page very soon. Thanks so much, JC,
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate your time.